Today we're going to see if GothamChess could beat the max engine on Cool Math Games. Unfortunately, he's on the road to Grandmaster, but we have his bot here rated at 2500 elo going against the level 8 Cool Math Games engine. Let's get to it. So Levy starts with knight to f3. Cool Math brings out their knight. Then Levy brings out his queen's pawn and Cool Math matches. Next, an inaccuracy from Levy, supposed to bring out their king's pawn. Now Cool Math responds by bringing out the bishop, the best move, getting the pieces out in the opening phase. Levy brings out his bishop to match, then Cool Math pushes up their pawn 1 square. Now Levy develops their pawn 1 square, so pretty even position. Next, Cool Math brings out the knight, which I think is their first only good move instead of the best move, but still a fine move by then. Now Levy brings out the bishop, pinning the knight over to the king. Cool Math responds by kicking the bishop. Now the engine says to move over the knight from f6 over to d7. I don't quite understand that move, but either way, bishop takes the knight and the pawns are doubled. Now Levy sends in his knight to e5. Now Cool Math moves their queen over to b8, threatening the pawn on b2. So Levy responds by protecting it with the rook. Now Cool Math heads over to b6, which is an inaccuracy. The engine wants him to offer a knight trade, and it allows Levy to kick the bishop, which he does, pushing up his pawn over to g4. Cool Math retreats their bishop, then Levy pawn pushes. Great move over to h4. This wide square bishop might run out of squares to go to. Now Cool Math pushes their h pawn up 1, supposed to go up 2, but that saves the bishop from getting kicked again. Now a mistake from Levy, he castles over to the king's side, which is just very unprotected at this point. You got, 2 pawns pushed up. Just the position to me does not look good. Now Cool Math gets their bishop over to h7 away from the knight, so they don't have to double pawns once again. Now an inaccuracy from Levy pushes the pawn over to g5, and I just feel like this king is just very unprotected. Now Cool Math is looking for a knight trade, which it won't get. Pawn pushed over to g6, which Cool Math will take with the bishop. Knight takes back, and Cool Math takes with another pawn, so doubling the pawns, but they are +1 in material. Next, Levy sends in the queen over to g4, threatening this unprotected pawn. So Cool Math responds by pushing up the king. A great move. Like, on paper this seems shaky, but these are both 2500 bots, so I know they know what they're doing. I'd be scared to move my king, over to the 7th rank, but it is a great move and defends the pawn. Now Levy backs up his queen to the 3rd rank. Excellent move. Cool Math moves over their rook to c1. The engine wants them to bring back their queen. An error from Levy, sending the bishop over to e5. Now Cool Math, mistakes. At 2500, I'm surprised there's mistakes being made. I don't see how these moves are necessarily mistakes. They just seem like okay moves. Like, they're not doing anything great or spectacular, but I don't really see how those are misses. So Levy has to take back with his pawn. Cool Math pushes up the queen, the best move. Levy moves his rook to d1. Cool Math brings out the bishop over to c5, developing that piece. Now Levy hurts himself on the meter, going pawn over to e4 and inaccuracy. This is just some high level stuff. I don't know how that necessarily hurts him, but maybe weakens the protection of the king. Hurts him on the meter a ton. So pawn pushed up to d4. A miss by Cool Math Games. Now the meter has swung back. Levy brings back his knight over to e2. Had to get it away from the pawn. Now a mistake from Cool Math Games. I mean, do either of these bots want to win the game? I'm not quite sure what they're doing. It's just like a back and forth of inaccuracies. We'll see who can find the first great move. Now knight to f4, not a great move. Inaccuracy. It's just his meter going up and down. Cool Math pushes the pawn, a great move for them. Levy takes back. Cool Math takes back with the pawn. Now Levy takes with the queen, which is a miss. Had an opportunity to create a passed pawn. The engine is saying, you should go for a knight sacrifice. That's Now if Levy was to knight sacrifice, there's this crazy line. The king takes back, but look at the queen go. It just keeps checking the king, picks up a pawn there, checks the king again, and it's just going to find a way to win some material, getting the bishop. So it's actually super helpful for GothamChess. But back to the game line, Cool Math does see that, brings the rook over to h6 to protect that pawn. Knight decides to take anyway, and rook takes back, which is an inaccuracy. Cool Math could have pinned the queen to the king, which Levy misses. It just pushes up their pawn, which loses material. Now Cool Math gets their bishop up out of the way. I guess they're not supposed to take, and then what, rook takes, queen takes the rook. I feel like that's winning. But I guess long term that does not work. So bishop goes back, a miss. Queen goes to f5, best move for Levy. King has to move over to get up out of the way. Now queen attacks the king and the pawn at the same time. King backs up, queen backs up one, threatening the rook, which is unprotected. Now Cool Math sends in their queen over to a2 on this diagonal, defending the rook. Engine wants him to go king to e7 to defend the rook. Now Levy finds an amazing move, rook to b3, rook protected by the pawn. Now queen cannot hit this diagonal. Cool Math needs a good response, just goes king over to f7 to protect the rook. And it is a mistake. They say a better way to defend the rook is headed over to d7. Now Levy up on the meter. What will he do? Moves his rook over to c1, which is a mistake. Puts white in a losing position. Crazy meter swing. Engine wants him to check the king with the rook. And if you look at that, rook beamed at the king. Queen over here. I mean, this king is not having a good time for Cool Math Games. Now Cool Math finds a good move. Rook over to e8, connecting its rooks. Queen checks the king. He moves up out of the way, a fine move, just getting away from the queen. Now rook swings over for Levy, looking to get to that back rank, but Cool Math, a lot of patience, a lot of discipline, just picks up the pawn over on e5. Queen checks the king. He gets up out of the way, protecting the rook on the back rank. Rook checks the king again. Cool Math just moves over, a great move, escaping the check, keeping the rook protected, but Levy is able to pick up the pawn over on g7, but the engine does want them to check again. Another great move from Cool Math, getting their king up out of the way. Now rook comes into the 7th rank. You know, you would think on paper Cool Math should be in trouble. You know, a rook and a queen on the 7th rank usually spells disaster, but Cool Math in this position is fine. So Cool Math moves their bishop over to b6. They want the queen to come in, get extra protection for the king, but fine move. Rook goes to the back rank, and Cool Math picks up a pawn. Queen checks the king. He moves up, protecting the rook at the same time. Rook checks the king. Now the king gets up out of the way, the best move, and now you look at this little area here. The king actually has a decent amount of protection. You look at Levy's king, he is out in the open. What, one pawn in front to the side? Not a good time for his king. So Levy goes to g6 with the queen. Cool Math moves their queen over to b2. Levy gets his rook up out of the way. Cool Math picks up another pawn, now up 5 in material. Levy activates his king. Pawn is pushed by Cool Math Games, looking to turn into a queen. Rook heads over to the h file for Levy. Queen moves over to the e file. Levy picks up a pawn with his queen. Cool Math puts the king in check. King has to move over. Now queen puts him in check again. King hiding in that h1 corner. Queen checks him again. Levy gets up out of the way. Now rook checks him. Crazy move set up by the rook checking the king. Rook has to take, and Cool Math wins the queen over on c6. Just crazy high level moves. Just look at the discipline and patience Cool Math has to line that up. Now another bad idea from Gotham Chess. Meter at 0. They're saying like GG minus m12. Is it just infinite? Just means what? Checkmate is on the board. So Cool Math puts him in check. King moves over. Pawn is pushed, a great move. I guess the engine wants him to keep checking. Oh wait, Levy now has a chance on the meter. Decides to block the pawn with his rook. Engine is just saying to push up this pawn. Levy is cooked. Like there's really not much he can do. So check from Cool Math. King gets up out of the way. Another check from Cool Math. Levy got to get up out of the way. Cool Math again checks the king. Blocked by the pawn. Checked again. My goodness, rook gets in the way. Checked again, gets that king away from the rook. Now Cool Math checks with the rook. Protected by the bishop, great diagonal. King has to move over. Queen comes in over to g3, one space for Levy. And Cool Math Games with checkmate on move 60 gets that W. Now the game review says Cool Math played like a 2350. So comment down below if you think Gotham Chess could beat the level 8 engine. Like and sub and stay joyful.